Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this morning's launch. Hopefully, you've all found yourself safely into this room. We're still expecting a number of colleagues, but we're going to make a start because we have an hour to take you through some really, really exciting new resources that are being launched this morning. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Shelley Ravji-Smith. I'm the Head of System OD Leadership and Wellbeing, and I'm based here at NHS Greater Manchester Integrated Care. Some of you might be aware of the Greater Manchester Wellbeing programme that's been running for the past few years. And today is about the relaunch of the Wellbeing Toolkit, which we have curated over the last few years with some new tools as well. So we've got some really exciting resources that we're pulling together for you. You might have noticed that we're recording this morning's session. There are lots of colleagues who unfortunately haven't been able to join, so please be mindful that we are recording. It's great to have so many of you with us, and we will be also running a transcript as well for those who want to access the launch that way as well. So very briefly, before we kind of kick off proceedings, this is the third edition of the Greater Manchester Wellbeing Toolkit, which really focuses on how we're able to look after our wellbeing and be at our best, both in the workplace and at home. It is aimed to support people who are working across our health and social care settings, but we're actually mindful it's much wider than that. We have a whole community of people who are working towards reducing the health inequalities for our communities across Greater Manchester. And so we know that people are accessing this. So today we're joined by colleagues from across all of our health and care settings, our social care, our volunteering community, housing, local authorities, our universities, anyone who's working in supporting how we get the best out of people. So welcome to all of you for that. Wellbeing, as you might know from our perspective, cuts across three domains. We talk about wellbeing from a physical aspect, from a practical aspect, and also from a psychological aspect. So, and all of that works from a preventative, how do we stay well in the first place, all the way through to what happens when we actually need some support and intervention at some stage, and where can we go to. We're also responding to the needs of what you have been telling us, our communities, the people who work across those workforces. So today is a result of all of that feedback, whether it's formally been submitted through some of the evaluation survey work we've been doing, whether you've attended one of the supporting workshops that we run, and we've got a whole programme of workshops that we've been delivering, or whether you've just picked up the phone or sent us an email and said, wouldn't it be great if? And we're hoping to really capture all of that feedback and make sure that we're really responding to what you, our workforce, are telling us. We're also really clear that this is about supporting you as individuals. Some of you will be line managers or you'll be supporting your peers. So it's about enabling you to do that in the best way possible. But our fundamental goal is to really shift our workplace cultures to make sure that we've got good, well-being workplaces that support all of us to stay well in the first place. It's really exciting that this week, the reason why we've chosen to launch the toolkit this week is because it coincides with Good Employment Week. So hopefully you'll all be aware of the Good Employment Charter, which we have across Greater Manchester. They've had a fantastic kind of week of activities and launches and lots of things that have been highlighting what good work looks like. So if you haven't had a chance to have a look, there's a link in the chat. Please do check that out. So for example, at lunchtime today, they are launching a new maternity toolkit. So there's lots and lots of activity. We're really pleased and proud to be a part of that Good Employment Network as well. And of course, all of the work that we're doing at the moment is underpinned by the Greater Manchester People and Culture Strategy. So this was launched at the Workforce Summit in March earlier this year, and it really kind of underlines the importance of why we need to focus on workforce. And if the pandemic in the last few years have taught us anything, is that without people, nothing else kind of happens. So we're really, really pleased that workforce wellbeing is one of the 5 priorities that have been identified in that document. And we're going to take that forward with all the plans and the supporting developments that we've got in place. I could talk much longer about all of this. As some of you might know, I'm incredibly passionate about this. And together with the team that I work with Dawn, with Kathy and with Louise, we're really pleased today to be able to kind of bring all of these tools with you. So what I'd like to do is invite our first speaker. We're going to have lots and lots of kind of activity going on over the next hour or so. Please make sure you tweet us. If you want to tweet, please use the chat if you want to use the chat. Let us know what you think. Share your feedback with us. We will come back to you after the event. I'd like to introduce Professor Sue Bailey, Dame Sue Bailey, who is the Wellbeing Guardian at NHS Greater Manchester Integrated Care Board, and is one of our non-exec directors. So I would like to hand over to Sue to open the session. Sue, over to you.
Hi everybody. That's absolutely brilliant. I left the meeting for a bit because I got no sound, so I entered the world of non-hearing for a few minutes, and that was really quite interesting to set the scene for this. So absolutely, workforce wellbeing is critical to us here if we're going to succeed in what we've all pledged to do. The sustained impact on people of working in extraordinary changing times over the last few years shows no sign of easing up. It's unremitting. We're redefining our workspaces, we're working hybrid, we've been asked to work at pace. And there's a shift in society about workforce culture. I'm privileged to be chair of the Centre for Mental Health, and we get a lot of feedback about wellbeing, a lack of wellbeing from across all sectors. The expectations of our workforce and what good looks like for you, especially when we're pulling through future generations, millennials, Generation Z, and the future workforce that's going to join us, who spent 2 years of their life in suspended animation when it came to education. So what is the response of this GM Wellbeing programme? Well, first and foremost, I have to make 2 thank yous, and I'll forget if I don't do it now. One to Sheni and the team for the fantastic work they do. They're a small team and they have to work tremendously hard to deliver, but also to all of you, whatever your role is in this system. And this morning is about the toolkit and the wellbeing quiz. Why are we doing it? It's to help us all to stay well in the first place, improve how we engage with work, and find the support and the interventions we need when we need them in a way that makes sense to us and will be helpful. For the whole of the integrated care system, what we're in the business of is shifting the dial for the whole population. So far more people are healthy and far fewer are unwell, but the same applies to you. So the whole ethos and drive behind what Sheni and the team do is that more of you will be healthy, more will be coping, fewer will be struggling, and we really don't want people unwell. And this is all about what we say for the people we're privileged to serve. We want no sense of helplessness in those we serve, but to achieve that, there can be no sense of helplessness in those who are serving. And this is why this wellbeing programme is there to work with and alongside you. So I just wish you all well. I thank you profusely for what you're doing. I know it's not easy. I absolutely understand that. And I'll hand back to Sheni. So thank you, Sheni.
Thank you, Sue. It's really great to have the support of yourself as our Wellbeing Guardian at the ICB, and also of Sandeep, who works across our system. So, and we'll hear from Sandeep a little bit later on. So without any further ado, we're going to have a first look at the toolkit. And when I say this is hot off the press, it really is super hot off the press. So I'm going to work technology here. So bear with me 1 second. And I'm going to take you on the journey. The links will be going into the chat as I speak. There we go. Okay, wonderful. So hopefully you can all see our website. So this is the workforce page. And I'm going to take you through this way so you can see how easy it is to get hold of it. So we have our 5 priorities that I mentioned in the People and Culture Strategy. If you scroll down to Workforce Wellbeing, and you'll see the live link here. So the Greater Manchester Wellbeing Toolkit, and we'll see the quiz as well a little bit later on. So you click on the toolkit and here we are. Here's the brand new toolkit, folks. It's completely interactive. It's built on the feedback, as I said, from yourselves, and the really key things that you fed back to us that from the previous toolkit was that you liked it to be accessible, you liked it to be interactive, and you really needed it to be user-friendly. Nobody wanted to read huge documents and wanted to access kind of pages and pages. And so we've really responded to that. So one of the key things that we've first of all kind of done is we've rebranded it. So you'll notice that it's had a little bit of an update and an uplift, and it looks slightly different from the previous toolkit. We've updated all of our icons here as well, and you'll see that kind of go through the entire document. In terms of navigation, it's really easy. You have a couple of different options to do this, and I'll take you through those. So the first one is you can use the bookmarks. So for those of you who use those PDF documents, you can click through all of the bookmarks and it will take you through what that looks like there. So, so that's the first way of doing it. The second way is you can scroll through, which is really easy. And on each of the pages, you've got an arrow left and right, which will take you to the left and right pages. So you can navigate through that way. And then the final way is you've got, actually there's two other ways. You've got tabs at the top. So wherever you are in the document, you can actually find yourself moving through each of the 3 sections in the document, which I'll cover in a minute. And if you go to the contents page and if you're looking for something in particular, this is our list of all the resources and all the chapters, sub-chapters that we've got. And so what you will be able to do is, again, click on each of those and navigate and find your way back every single time to that contents page, so you're able to find your way around. So the navigation is probably about as easy as we've made it. The final way, you might be looking for something in particular in terms of support, is the final tab that we have is finding the support that you need. If you click on that one, we've got this wonderful kind of signposting. It literally is a signposter. And it then again redirects you back into the toolkit, but to find the actual resource that you need in a different way. So we know that different people are navigating through it in different ways. So we've tried to really reflect that and what that looks like. Going through onto the structure of the toolkit, you can see here we've got 3 chapters. We've kept the 3 chapters because they're really important to us. It recognises that we want to support you as individuals. This is about how you can look after yourself, and there's lots of great reminders, practical tools and tips, and things to kind of really support you to look after yourself and understand about the decisions that you're making about your lifestyle, your working habits, all sorts of different things. So you can see through here, we've got lots of things about staying active. We've got the 5 ways to well-being. I'll go through the quiz. We've got the blob tree, which many of you will be familiar with. And then we've got some really practical things like financial advice, hybrid working, MSK, dealing with stress, and then where you find that support when you need to. The second section is supporting others. So again, here we recognise that many of you are either formally or informally supporting those around you. So whether you are a line manager, whether you are one of our wellbeing champions or guardians or a lead in your organisation, or whether you're a good peer who's just offering that supporting shoulder to help others around you, this is the bit that's got lots of tools and resources to help shift our workplace cultures. We'll go through some of those in a minute, but it's everything from how to set up a buddy network, how to check in with your team after a day's work, especially when you've all been dealing with something challenging or quite difficult, what staff networks look like, how to find and set up your wellbeing champions, how to have good wellbeing conversations. And then we've got some thematic areas that have been coming through from yourselves. So how we think about menopause, how we navigate through bereavement and grief, how we support people, what that looks like in terms of the stress and the burnout that we're all experiencing in some way, shape or form, and having that conversation, that slightly difficult conversation about suicide. And we really do need to shine a light on suicide and be as suicide aware as possible, because we may need at some point to support a colleague, or perhaps even recognise some signs in ourselves as well occasionally. And then the final section is about responding to needs. So this is where we've curated all the great provision, the support, the access to interventions when you need them from across both our Greater Manchester system and wider as well. We've checked all the resources out. We've had conversations with everyone who's providing the resources. We've made sure that they are sound and they're available, because we know that sometimes provision can come and go as well. And you can navigate through kind of 2 key ways. Number one, those support resources where you can directly speak to somebody. And then the second is the online support that you can access discreetly yourself. And then, of course, we mentioned the signposting. So the toolkit's broken down into those 3 sections. Let's go into section 1. So looking after yourself. So this is, as I mentioned, about how you can look after yourself physically, practically, and psychologically. And you can move through those 3 chapters very easily by kind of navigating through this top bit here. We've got lots of provision and links. So anything that's bold and underlined is a hyperlink into some of our supporting partners activity. And I do have to say, we've got a number of partners who have contributed to this document, everyone from Greater Sport, our trusts, our VCSE and community organisations, our primary care networks, as well as our supporting kind of organisations such as we've got Malleable Mind. We've got a number of different people who've contributed to this document, so please do have a look. So you can click on any of these kind of resources that will take you directly to what that supporting resource is. You'll also notice that we've got these boxes, and there are little icons with the boxes that will tell you what kind of information is in there. So if you get an eye, it's a bit of information you might want to focus on. If there is a www icon, a web icon, that's because there is a specific resource that we would like to highlight to you. We also have, and I'm just trying to find it here. Here we go, a PDF one as well. So this is where we've got a number of resources that sit behind this toolkit itself. And if you click through, you'll be able to then access those resources as well. So we've also, so as much of the content that you can see in the toolkit itself, there's just as much that kind of sits behind it. So do have a look for those PDF icons. And we've got a number of those around the toolkit itself. And I'm just trying to find, there we go, we've got an example here. So on this page, which is about your stress bucket, we've got some of those resources that might help you from finding your motivation, what's in your control, how we breathe better, improving your sleep, and also eating well. And these are things that you've told us are really important for you to support and manage your own well-being. So do have a quick look through that. We have a new section on understanding stress and burnout. It's definitely a conversation that has emerged specifically over the last year or so, more so about the burnout conversation and how we can confidently have those discussions when we start recognizing some of those signs within ourselves. And we've got a wonderful kind of visual representation in the toolkit itself. So do have a look at that. And if you're a line manager or a leader, we've also got some kind of information about what you might need to pay attention to here. In particular, what I would like to do is kind of draw your attention to our good well-being conversations. So how we have conversations in our workplace, it depends on a couple of different ways. We have direct conversations with our line managers. Hopefully you're having those regular conversations which include something about well-being kind of in those conversations. But we also have a growing network of well-being champions, and we're joined by some of our champions today, and we'll hear from one of them a little bit later on. So we've got lots of information about what good well-being champions are, how you can be identified as a good wellbeing champion. We've also working on some resources. So for those of you who are wellbeing champions across Greater Manchester, we're going to have a specific kind of visual that we'll send out to everyone. So if we don't know that you're there, just let us know and we'll connect you up to the community. We've also got some great resources from our regional team who have developed the Wellbeing Community Resource Pack, which includes kind of that network. We've got an ecology of our wellbeing guardians, our strategic wellbeing leads, our wellbeing champions, who then sit alongside our Freedom Speak Up guardians or our ED&I colleagues as well, all working together more increasingly to create good working places. So do have a little bit of a think about this. If your workplace doesn't have wellbeing champions, come and talk to us and we will support as much as we can. What we've also got on here, and we're really encouraging people to do this, is how to have good wellbeing conversations. So we've got lots of information here. And on page 30 of the toolkit itself, we've got a good conversation guide, and we've also got how to start good wellbeing conversations. You all told us that sometimes you really wanted to have those conversations with your peers, with your colleagues, and especially if you're a line manager, but sometimes didn't want to say the wrong thing, didn't want to didn't know how to start the conversation. So we've done some of that work for you. So do have a look at that. And we've also put that into a wellbeing review template. So whichever way you have your regular conversations in your workplace, whether it's an appraisal kind of process, if you have a PDR, we've developed this template that can sit alongside that. You can download it, you can upload it into your kind of whatever system you use in your workplace, and hopefully it will help kind of frame some of those wellbeing conversations. And it covers a number of different topics, and it's broken down into 3 sections. So do have a look at that. The other big area is menopause. I'm a huge menopause champion. We've got lots of activity and work going on across Greater Manchester, partly in response to the Women's Health Strategy, which was launched last year. And we will continue to talk about menopause, because it's important that we support our workforce who perhaps may be perimenopausal or menopausal. We know that nearly 80% of our workforce is female, and it's anticipated that half of that workforce are either going to be menopausal or perimenopausal based on the demographic data that we have. And what we also know is that actually it's something that affects all of us. So this isn't just about a wellbeing conversation. This is also about the retention of our workforce, how we make those adjustments that we need, and how we really kind of build an awareness. So menopause is still one of those conversations that people feel a little bit uncomfortable about at the moment. So please do focus on that. And then finally, we've got responding to needs. So this is the directory of all of those support services that we have across our network. So as I mentioned, we've got speaking to somebody, and we've broken all of the support down from financial support in your community. We've got a section on the resilience hub, the Samaritans, all of our crisis lines, shining a light on suicide. We've also got kind of the bereavement service, domestic abuse. All of these things are around, as well as the support you might have in your workplace, like your trade union colleagues, your employee assistance programs. You might also have occupational health. We've also got lots of online support here as well. So we've linked all of this. There's a fantastic resource from that's come from our colleagues who work across mental health. So we've added that, and we've got a number of different agencies from Every Mind Matters. Couth and Quell are phenomenal kind of resources across Greater Manchester, so do have a look at that. We've got Living Life to the Full, which comes from our GM Health Hub, and it goes on and on and on. So please do have a look at a lot of these resources, because they are there. They are updating all the time. We'll try and keep on top of it as much as possible, and we will put updates out. And then finally, I have already mentioned kind of this signposting, which helps you navigate through some of those direct services, whether it's within your workplace or whether you want to access them discreetly yourself. And that's the end of the toolkit. So I will stop sharing. Hopefully that's given you a little bit of an insight into the resource that we've been working on. It really has responded to all the information and feedback that you have shared with us. And please do let us know what you think, because it's really helpful to kind of get that feedback, and we'll continue to build that into, dare I say, a 4th edition that may come in the future at some point. Wonderful. Okay, so now I'm going to invite one of our wellbeing champions to join me in a conversation. So I'm hoping that Lisa is online, and we can have a little bit of a chat. So Lisa, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful. Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Hi, good morning. I'm fine, thank you.
Good to have you with us. So we're just going to spend a couple of minutes just having a quick chat, because you are one of those wellbeing champions that I mentioned earlier on. So I wonder, can you just share with us, why is it important for you to be a wellbeing champion?
Well, for me, I think it's come to the forefront, obviously, like many people during COVID, complete change of working situation and scenario. I manage a team of about 8 or 9 staff, and we were all shipped from an office to working from home. So there was lots of changes, and I was aware my staff were all handling it differently, as was I. So I had to adapt, and so did they, about how they worked. And it was about thinking about those work-life boundaries, and when you're working from home, and creating that separation, so that staff were were staying happy and healthy, not just physically healthy, but mentally healthy as well. Some, you know, some staff were becoming isolated. Some staff were just struggling in general. So for me, it was really important to get involved and to change the way I view things and to help them as well, to help myself and to help them.
Brilliant. And it's really great to kind of have those conversations with you and get a sense of how that has been helpful. So can you talk a little bit about how you might have used some of the tools and some of the training that we've been putting into place to support you to be a good wellbeing champion?
Yeah, it's not onerous at all, and you don't need a whole load of qualifications or skills. You just need to be able to listen, and to listen without judging or without saying, but if it was me, you know, just the greatest thing, the best way to help people is to let them know you're there. And you can do that by listening and really listening. It's so powerful to be able to give somebody that space and that time. And even if you don't say anything, they can come away and they go, God, you've really helped. And you can, I've not actually done or said anything, but just if they know they've been really heard, it's so powerful for people. So you don't actually need any qualifications or anything. It's just about listening and then perhaps just directing or signposting people to the relevant tools and just checking in with them, and just, I think, just being kind, you know, and taking an interest in people, whether that's about issues they've got on at work, or they might be having something going on at home, in their personal life, and just saying, just checking in with them and letting them know that you're there for them and really there. You don't have to take it on board, you don't have to do anything, it's but just about being there for them.
And we talk champion is not about fixing other people's problems.
It's not.
It is about that listening ear, very much so.
Yeah.
If somebody was thinking about becoming a champion, what advice would you give to them?
I would say you've got absolutely nothing to lose. You've got loads to gain. You'll become part of a really brilliant network with other wellbeing champions, and we meet up regularly and we get support from one another and from other organisations that come in, say like Boo Coaching, that come in and support us. It's not onerous in terms of time, because I know everybody's very busy and people say, I haven't got time for this. But it's also very rewarding. You get a glow. Well, I get a glow if just by listening to people and they're going, oh, thanks very much. I couldn't, you know, I feel so much better now, even though I've not said anything. But, you know, so that's good for me as well. So I would just say you've got nothing to lose. You don't need any qualifications. You just need a pair of ears and to listen.
Brilliant, thank you. And finally, Lisa, because I'm a little bit curious, what have you learned about your own well-being over the last few years, and what do you do to look after yourself?
I think my own well-being fluctuates, goes up and down, and that's natural. And that's what I've learned. It's natural for it to be like that. For me, my own coping strategies, I've learned that I need to look after me to be able to be there for the people. And it's okay to say, oh, do you know what, I can't, you know, I can't support you today, but I know somebody else that can because I'm full up. It's okay to say that. For me, obviously because I'm working from home all the time, just going out, having short walks, even if it's just a wander into the garden or a wander into another room, it's to get that separation and to come away from the laptop. You know, after work, I will have some downtime and tell the family to stay away from me. I'm going reading for half an hour. I just need to make that switch. I go to the gym, I walk the dogs. It's the usual stuff really, and I read. But that's how I look after me.
Wonderful. And I think from the conversations that we've had, it's about that conscious awareness of what works for you and being able to reflect on what you need to stay well first for yourself and supporting others. Brilliant. Lisa, thank you so much. It was a quick conversation. I'm really pleased that you were able to join us today. And hopefully for anyone who's thinking about kind of stepping into that wellbeing champion role, do let us know. We are going to be running some sessions from the autumn onwards around what makes a good wellbeing champion. And if you're thinking about setting something up in your workplace, do have those conversations. Most of you have got some form of wellbeing guardian or a strategic wellbeing lead. And if you haven't, then let us know and we will help connect and network you into your network, regardless of kind of whichever organisation or locality you are in. So thank you so much to Lisa for that. Okay, so we're going to move on. Earlier this year, we ran a wellbeing engagement survey. We worked with some of our colleagues, and I can see we've got Lou Harris with us on the call, so thank you so much to Lou. This is the second year of the survey that we've run, and it's been really interesting because it's been able to give us some insights about some of the changes and the shifts that the work that we're delivering is making on you as the people around us, but also it gives us some insights about those areas that we really need to pay attention to. So I'm hoping that John is on the call, and John is going to come and share some insights from his perspective on what we have learned over the last couple of years. So John, over to you.
Thanks, Shani. Hi, everyone. So my name's John Herring. I work with Shani at NHS Greater Manchester, and I'm just gonna, because this is the so what, what have we seen? What have we seen that maybe has changed as a result of the programme, but also as a result of the environment, as Sue was saying at the very start, that people find themselves in now. So we have run a survey, and we've run the survey a few times now. So we're beginning to get a sense of change or not change, as the case may be, across Greater Manchester and across health and care staff. So we had 224 people respond to the most recent survey, and that is a 30% increase on our last survey. And one of the things that we're quite interested in asking people on the call today and in the future is, how do we get that increase in? How do we get more people filling in this survey so we have better and better understanding of people's experience, so that therefore we can, when we're thinking about what are the offers that are really going to help people and support people, we've got more intelligence about it. The bulk of those people who responded to our survey, 81% of them, they worked across health and social care in Greater Manchester. I guess one of the things to say is that people, what we've noticed over the last few years is people are becoming increasingly confident. It doesn't mean that they necessarily feel any better, but they're feeling more confident about accessing wellbeing support, or certainly considering what that might look like for them. And for a lot of people, our speakers have touched on this, what wellbeing looks like for them is often about support at home, friends and family, hobbies, exercise, those kind of things. I think it's important to say that about just over a quarter of respondents did say that the workplace culture was something that was an impediment to their well-being. So, you would expect us to focus on that, but I think it's really important to say that we need to create cultures that aren't an impediment to people's well-being, and it sounds very obvious, but it's harder to do in practice, isn't it? Because actually, if we're able to remove that as an impediment, people tend to deliver better work, from a purely workplace related focus, but also, they're feeling better themselves. So in terms of the toolkit and the wellbeing workshops, people have, highlighted that they've really benefited from accessing the toolkit. They've accessed that as a team. And in terms of the wellbeing resources, in terms of the wellbeing programme, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit, people have accessed that individually and really benefited from the range of wellbeing offers that we've had, from menopause sessions to stress and burnout sessions. I think the majority of respondents, we've noticed increase in nowhere to go, as I said, in terms of access to wellbeing now. And one of the things about the toolkit is, and Shenny said it at the start, was about ease of navigation. And you know, we're now seeing a real increase in people, so 80%, which is up from about 70 odd percent, low 70s, of people saying they find the toolkit easy to use. So hopefully that is going to go up in the next year, because we've revised the toolkit, and ease of use is obviously absolutely critical. When respondents were asked about what their organisation could do, there were 3 things that they said that keep coming up. So health checks in the workplace was one of them. Wellbeing break spaces, and I know colleagues, particularly from trusts, but it's not unique to trusts, but I know colleagues in trusts will be saying, you know, about break spaces, access to food and water. I know that that sounds very, very basic, but that is stuff which is coming through constantly, about people having access to those kind of basic things, and having access to break spaces is one of them. And the other one is about having health and wellbeing activities available in work. I know I was discussing with staff just yesterday about you know, the nature of how we work, particularly on Teams, and Sue touched on that, and where you create breaks for yourself. And I'm useless at it, so I cannot preach, because it's definitely not. I can see a couple of my team laughing. It's not a do as I do, you know, because I don't do very well at it. But it is really important, because your brain gets fried after so long. You know, you do need those breaks, and important. So just want to talk a bit about the programme in the last 12 months, because I think it's important for people to realise just how, I mean, I know we've said how hard Shenny, Kathy, Louise, Dawn are working on this programme with colleagues and partners across the system, but this is the stuff that they've been delivering with those partners. So we now have 71 wellbeing champions within our organisation, within NHS Greater Manchester. I know there's colleagues on the call who work across beyond NHS Greater Manchester. Well, for those colleagues, we have built a network of wellbeing leads across the system, and we've brought together our non-exec directors on a couple of occasions who are responsible for leading wellbeing, because they've got the wellbeing champion role, to begin to say, you know, what does that wellbeing champion role look like in trust, and what the non-exec directors need as support. So as well as doing stuff for our organisation, we're linking in across the system and seeing how we can build a community really of wellbeing champions and that deliver wellbeing approaches. We've got mental health work first aiders, 56 of them trained in NHS Greater Manchester and partner organisations. And I know we've learned a lot from our partner organisations about how we, you know, develop a network of mental health first aiders, you know, from practices in Manchester Foundation Trust around mental health first aid and stuff like that. So we're trying to collate all of the learning so that we improve the offer across the system. I think this is really important. The team have delivered 76 wellbeing sessions, and there's nearly 3,000 people who've took up the offer of that across the system. I think that's massive, you know, and they've done stuff on stress and burnout, navigating uncertainty, sleep and mindfulness, and menopause. So they've done, it's been, you know, these sessions evaluate really well. People have told us about what they want to see more of. I've been part of the menopause session speaking on it, and that was a real privilege. But actually the expertise that was on that session, you know, we had a clinical expert on there talking. This isn't, you know, there's some real evidence behind the work that the guys are doing, and I think that's why people have really benefited from, you know, reflecting on those particular themes, and getting real benefit from them. In terms of the attendees, 50% came from NHS organisations, and 92% of the attendees were from our footprint in Greater Manchester. So that includes social care, local authority, housing organisations, primary care, and the voluntary sector. I mean, 8% were from outside, and you know, we're not precious. We do obviously want our Greater Manchester colleagues to benefit, but it is great to have, and I think we may have people on the call, I don't know, from outside of Greater Manchester today. I know we had a few people booked on. If people can benefit more broadly, then absolutely, that is great. And 43% of those attendees, of those 3,000, came to more than one session. So people are coming back for sessions as well, which is great to see as well. So what are we doing in terms of recommendations from the evaluation survey, from everything that's been learned on the delivery? So the wellbeing programme, we're going to continue to work on how do we shift workplace cultures. If 27% of people are saying that is a barrier to their well-being, then we need to work across the system to reduce that number. You know, so we're going to be looking at things like health checks and those wellbeing spaces and those activities as recommended. We're going to continue with the wellbeing workshops. People have really benefited from them, and we want to continue to deliver them. And the toolkit obviously is launched today, and that is one of our developing offers, and we'll continue to reflect on that. And as Jenny said, if we can keep the momentum up, there may be an edition 4 as we develop, because we need to respond to what's coming up in each year. We need to do more around publicising both the programme and the survey, and seeing if we can continue to create both awareness and an understanding of what people are experiencing out there and how we can help. And yeah, so that really is, hopefully that gives you an overview of the impact that the survey's told us about, and the impact that the programme has had, and what our plans are for the coming year. So I'll hand back to Shannon.
Brilliant. Thank you, John. And I think one of the key things that came through all of that feedback was that we're trying to address the equity of access to all of this support and provision. So for us, it doesn't matter which part of our system you work in. If you are contributing to reducing those health inequalities that we have across our system, we will look to support you and your well-being, and regardless of whichever organisation, role, profession or locality that you work in. So just keep talking to us, keep letting us know what's working for you or isn't working for you, and hopefully we can continue to grow this programme to become better and better as we move forward. So now, thank you so much for that, John. One of the things that we have responded to is we know that about a third of you are really committed actively to looking after your well-being, which is brilliant, actually, which is really, really great. But what we also know is that there are lots and lots of people out there who would like to do something about their well-being, but don't know where to start, don't necessarily feel like they have the time to engage with well-being, or just feel a little bit daunted by it all, because it's now become a part of people's lifestyles. And you know, you get some people who are very open about all the things that they're doing, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. So we started to have conversations about, we've got this great toolkit, but actually how do we get people to even pick up the toolkit and have a look at it, if there is that reluctance there, or people are just feeling a little bit daunted. So of course, in the true tradition of playing games, we have gamified the toolkit. So what we'd like to do today, and we're launching this today as a supporting tool, is we'd like to share the Greater Manchester Wellbeing Engagement Quiz. So I'm going to give you a quick intro. We're going to put the links into the chat, and I'm going to share my screen again. So bear with me while we swap over the technology. This is an online quiz. It takes you through a series of 22 questions that you can answer, cutting across those areas of well-being, the domains that I spoke about earlier on. So the physical, that practical, that psychological. We've added sleep onto there, because sleep was a really big component of this. And you basically click in, you don't need to sign in or anything. It will take you through to the quiz, and you answer the 22 questions. We are capturing a little bit of data about which locality you're in, and I'm clicking very randomly here now, so I'm going to get some very weird responses. So we've got a series of, like I say, these 22 questions, which ask about your wellbeing lifestyle, your level of awareness, your practice on a day-to-day basis. So this one, for example, is, do you smoke or vape? And the answer is yes, no, or I'm trying to give up. So if I click I'm trying to give up, we can have a quick look at that. And it asks about your day-to-day practice, about your well-being. I'm going to get some very, very weird responses, because I'm clicking through this very quickly just to get to the end. There we go. Okay, and you'll see every single time it changes a section, the colour at the top just shifts. So here we are, sleep is the final section. And then once you've put all your answers in, you get to the results page. Now, if you would like your results to be sent to you as a link then if you add your email address in at this stage, you can get it emailed over to you. If you are happy to see it on the screen and you don't want to share your details, that's absolutely fine. You don't need to do that. But here we are. So under those sections that I mentioned, general well-being, I don't know what answers I put in because I wasn't really paying attention. But here we go. So here we've got some advice about general well-being. This is a very bespoke, because there's a huge database that sits behind this, and this is a bespoke response to the answers that you have given. So smoking, for example, the advice here is, because I think I might have clicked I'm trying to give up, and it will just share a link into the Making Smoking History campaign and some of the top tips and resources that are out there to help me stop smoking. And likewise, across the other 3 areas, we've got physical activity, which will link into the toolkit and all the various resources, psychological well-being, so it will talk about the stress and anxiety resources that we have, and links to some of the support that are out there, and sleep as well. So have a play with this, have a look at it, share it with your colleagues. I'm just going to bring myself back into the room. There we go. It's there. It's the idea is that you can access it really easily, either on the laptop or on the phone. I had my teenage children trying it out last night on their phones, and it's really, really accessible. So whether you are a champion or a lead in your workplace, or whatever kind of work setting you work in, please do share that tool. It's a really great way of engaging people a little bit more in that wellbeing conversation, and guiding them to the deeper resources in the toolkit, and all the support and resource that's out there. So please do have a look at all of that. You're the first people to see it, so this is that fresh launch. We're going to pay a little bit of attention to some of the feedback that we get. So we don't know who you are when you fill it in, but we do get a sense of which locality you're coming from, because it gives us a little bit of an idea in some of those trends. And of course, we can see how people are responding. So if, for example, we get lots and lots of people responding with troubles around sleep, for example, then that will give us the information to be able to kind of inform us to do a little bit of more work around some of the sleep resource and activities that we're going to be putting into place. So have a look at that. It's a very quick tool, and you'll be able to kind of put that into place. Okay, so our final speaker for today is by no means the kind of it's a huge kind of influence and advocate for all the work that we've been doing. So Professor Sandeep Renaud has been on this journey with us for a number of years, is there as our system wellbeing guardian, and is co-chair of the Greater Manchester Oversight Group for Wellbeing with John, and is going to share some thoughts about what our next part of the journey is going to be. So thank you, Sandeep. I know that you've had a really busy morning this morning, so thank you so much for joining us, and over to you.
Thank you very much. Well, everyone's busy, aren't they? And actually, John, I'm also a real terrible don't practice what I preach, but I'm going to, because this has energized me to do so. It's a real privilege to work alongside John, Sheni, the rest of Sheni's team, and also now Sue. To have you on board is incredible in terms of not just the advocacy, but your intelligence, experience, and the ability to influence within your portfolio. So I'm really looking forward to what we can do next together. Lots has already been said, Sheni, I'm not going to repeat it. I've said this a lot around the country, because there's lots of wellbeing tools out there, but really, I think we're really lucky in Greater Manchester to have the Greater Manchester Workforce Wellbeing Toolkit, the way it's been developed, the ease of access of use, the refresh that you've done, Sheni, the content. I'm using it myself, our teams are using it. I really do think it's one of the best available, and I don't say that lightly. So if you haven't familiarized yourselves, or your teams haven't, please do. So I think for me, the important thing here is I'm going to focus moving forward as the system wellbeing guardian, doing that bit that I think Sheni and John have spoken about, which is how do we get and broaden this even more widely across our system, because this isn't just NHS, this is about all of our workforce in Greater Manchester, and that's always been the ethos. And how do we get that culture shift, really? So it's me supporting Sheni and John and the team, the culture shift to embed this as practice in your places of work, where however big or small they are, and what learning we can do together and collaboratively, because there's lots of learning to be done together. And we also have, of course, the vehicle of wellbeing guardians and wellbeing champions. So again, we're not precious. It's not about having an elite group of wellbeing guardians. It's about bringing that group of people together. And we started that journey earlier this year, and we make a promise now with this relaunch and the ICS kind of settling in terms of its structures and functions to bring that group together again, so that it's almost a community of practice, I think, Sheni, in terms of that culture shift, and developing that. We know that workforce is our single biggest challenge. You'll have heard about that all it resonates with you all. We've got over 100,000 vacancies in secondary care alone, more if we add all of our health and care workforce. We know that sickness absence in our workforce, the top two things: mental health, stress related, and musculoskeletal, often complicated mix of both. We've all been affected by industrial action over this last 6 months. We know that our junior doctors, 40% of them are saying they may want to leave. It isn't pay that they're citing as the reason, the top reason. It's stress and burnout. So these are really, really important factors. I'm really pleased that Greater Manchester are making sure this remains a priority, and it's through the hard work of Sheni, John and the team that it's absolutely embedded in that people and culture strategy. I'm going to do everything I can to be the advocate that Sheni says and the ambassador to make sure that we fully support that and continue to deliver all the wellbeing activities you've heard about. And I'm so pleased that the focus, Sheni, like you say, it's biological, social, psychological and spiritual. It's all of those things. But certainly what you're talking about, what I call the 3 S's: sleep, suicide, stress, and you're going to really focus on those, as well as menopause and musculoskeletal. Actually, it's something like 35% of our population are reporting sleep difficulties at the moment. That's huge. So brilliant that we're choosing to focus on all of those areas and continue to build our networks. I think you've mentioned some of the up and coming wellbeing events, the Toolkit events, 27th of June, 14th of July and the 18th of July. So I think you shared those links in the chat, so it's to remind people about that. And just, finally to say, we must not forget about looking after ourselves, no matter what your role is, and caring for those that care for our communities is incredibly important. The greatest wealth we have is our health. So with that, I will hand back over to you, Sheni, and thank you for the privilege and opportunity to continue to work with you all.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sandeep. And yes, I think the links have gone into the chat. We're running 3 specific sessions in the coming weeks. So the 27th of June, the 14th of July and the 18th of July, for people who want to get a little bit more information about how you can look after yourself and your team. So we'll look at the toolkit, we'll look at the quiz, and it's a bit more of an interactive workshop and session. So please book onto those. As we've always done, if we get inundated, we will continue to run them. I think the first time we launched the toolkit, we haven't stopped running the sessions, to be honest. So we will continue to run those. I can see in the chat we've got lots and lots of questions about how people become wellbeing champions. It's brilliant. Please do kind of keep letting us know. We'll put the email address into the chat as well. If you are interested in becoming a wellbeing champion in your workplace, let us know. We're going to be running some sessions, as I've said, about what that looks like as an introduction. Some of you might already have some wellbeing champions in your workplace, and we'll try and network you into those people where we know networks are set up. And if not, then have a look in the toolkit. We've got some guiding resources there, and we can get and spread some of this good wellbeing culture across all of our workplaces. So we've probably got about 2 minutes left before we finish, and give everyone a couple of minutes break so you can stand up, stretch, go and get yourself a drink before you start your 11 o'clock. We're trying to practice what we preach here. And so in the slightest, bravest way, I know that the chat's been super busy and the team have been kind of responding. Is there anyone who'd like to, has anyone got a question, or is anyone would like to share any comments or thoughts before we close in a couple of minutes? And if not, then I'm quite happy to say that we're going to end this session and everyone can have 5 minutes back in your morning. Wonderful. I can see loads of smiles, so that's what we're going to do. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please do have a look through the links. Please put them into place. Get in touch with us. Use the emails that we're going to share. Enjoy the rest of your day and use the next 5 minutes as a way of just recentering yourself. Go and get a drink, go and have a bit of a stretch, whatever you need to do. And look forward to hearing from you and seeing you soon. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thanks.